Hey, good afternoon, class. All right. So today we have our final safety training for the month, as far as I know, right now. But so far as I can see it, it will be. And it's a good safety training. I know I said that it would be on Friday that would have our last one, but things change, so we gotta roll with the punches. Not that anybody's really gonna get punched, We're a very hands-off program, which is a good thing. Um, But today, what we're going to go over is we've gone over a lot of stuff like what it's like to be lost in the community, how to stay safe out in the community. And so, this is kind of the last part that ties everything kind of together. And it should hopefully bring back reminders of this, pardon me, of the stuff that we've already done. So, the first thing is it's about carrying your ID and emergency information. And that will be the first part of this last part. Then the second part will be basically um, why you need to keep that information safe and keep it private. So that's what we're going to focus on today, is how to keep that information safe and private, as well as carrying it with you, because that's very important. All right, so we've gone over somebody missing in the community. The first question to the person from either a police officer or security guard will be if he or she is carrying identification and a name and number of someone to contact. So that's why it's important that not only do you have your information, but also to memorize the phone number of your parents, or to at least have a way of contacting them in the phone. Um, to unlock your phone, say, "This is my parents' number, so please contact them." That is very important to be able to have that information because eventually, I'm sure things would work out, but it would be a lot faster and easier and less frightening if you already have that number. You can call and kind of get calmed down and things like that. All right, so we have some questions and then responses to those questions. So I'm going to go over them. I'm hoping that everybody gets the right answer to the very first one. And you don't need to show anything, obviously, because this is via YouTube. So the first question would be, and just think of this as, DJ PD, not, you know, not program director, but DJ Police Department. But, these are questions that you have to imagine that a police officer might ask you or might inquire of you. So, and this is an important one, who has their ID on them today? Everybody should have a raised hand at that point. Hopefully, all of you do have an ID, some sort of identifying information. It doesn't necessarily have to be like an ID in terms of like identification card or a driver's license. But there are emergency identification cards that you can get and carry that in your wallet. So if ever somebody asks you, you can say, "Hey, look," and we've done it for other people here, just so they can pull it out and say, "Hey, here's the information that you'll need. This is me." But it's good to have both that information. So your name, as well as your contacts of people that you want to be contacted. And usually what you want is a primary contact and a secondary contact. But also, with having your ID, they can also see that it's you. So that's always helpful. And you know why it's important to have your ID with you every time you leave the home. Well, so when it comes to police officers, if that's who you decide to go to, the emergency personnel, they don't know where everyone lives. If you were hurt, Police will look in your wallet to see where you live. If you don't have an ID, police won't know where you live or whom to contact to help you. So that's why it's very important to have it. Same with, say, knock on wood, it was like an accident and an ambulance driver got a hold of, had to get your information. It's important to have that just in case you had like a medical alert bracelet or something like that, or anything that could help any emergency response person help. Is your ID locked up somewhere in your home? So it says you should have your ID with you every time you go out into the community. Tell the people you live with you need it if you're going out in case you get lost or injured. So it is good. I have a lot of my information locked up. You want to make sure that you don't have your social security card on you and your ID at the same time. That's not a good idea. Have your social security card because you only need that for specific instances. And in that case, you got to make sure that you're very careful. But don't just leave it in your wallet, because you lose that wallet, that's when people can steal your identity. And we don't want that. Next question is, does everyone the phone number of someone who could help you in case you do get lost or injured? So again, that's why it's important that if you do have an emergency contact list or people in your phone, make sure it's somebody that can actually help you, knows maybe what hospital you intend to go to, knows of any allergies, anything like that. So sometimes it's hard to remember the number if you're scared or hurt, so it's important to keep a piece of paper in your wallet or pocket that has the name and number of someone that can be called if you do get lost. It is also the number the police can call if you get hurt. Like I said, those emergency identification cards are really a good thing. Okay, so we've gone over this, but it's best to make sure we have it all done. What if you got separated from staff and your group went on an outing at a place you're not familiar with and couldn't find each other? What would you do? What do you do? You don't start screaming. That's if somebody's bothering you, remember, and for a long time. So what you would do in that situation if you did get lost is, if you see a police officer, go up to the officer and tell him or her that you are lost, or you can tell a security guard if you see one. It would be helpful if you can show them your ID and the name and number of someone to call in an emergency. So say you were somewhere and you're just like, I have no idea where I am right now. I thought I knew this city better than I do, but I don't. Then the best thing to do is to find somebody that can help you. Has anyone ever been lost? Have you ever been lost? What did you do? Did someone help you? So the best thing to do is, if you have a cell phone, we all have our phone. Call home first, then call the number of your job or program if you have the number. If you don't have these numbers, you can call the police. So again, it's always good to try to figure out where you are. It's also good to know that if you do get lost and you can't seem to find a police officer, typically stay where you are. You need to stay where you are, because people will retrace their steps. Remember, that's something important. If you see close to you, which they're becoming non-existent anymore, or you don't see them very often. If you see a payphone and you really can't find anybody else, go to that payphone, dial 911, because what happens is, through a landline, it can actually be sent that information of where you are directly to police officers, which is helpful. Pardon me. Okay, so this is for all of you. I want you to think of 3 people you can call if you were lost and needed help. At least 2, but 3 is definitely a much better one. So possible answers for you can think of program staff. If you all have my number, you're lost, please call me. Text me. Bug me. I don't mind. Supervisor at work. Family, staff in a group home, your case manager, your ILS worker. And if you can't get a hold of any of these people, then call the police. So, and also, um, you should have your families, at least one person in your family's number programmed. Just, have your home phone ready to go. Who is it okay to show your ID to? So it's okay to show your ID to the police or security guard if he or she is going to help you. Sometimes you have to show your ID to a bus driver or at the doctor's office. Sometimes a store clerk might ask to see your ID if you're paying with a credit card. No one else really needs to see your ID. In fact, it could be dangerous to show other people, strangers, your ID. Someone could see where you live and might try to hurt you, it says, or rob you, and then that's financial pain. So, this is the second part of our last part, is keeping your personal information to yourself. So you don't want to tell everybody all your information all the time. Only what's pertinent or relevant or important to that specific situation. It doesn't need to be, well, my auntie lives over here with my cousin Jake and their best friend Bill, like they don't need all that information, and really you shouldn't be divulging that information. That is personal information, and that's their information. They're not asking you to, say it. So, what information is important? So, here's the question: should you give personal information like your name to strangers? So, if you tell someone your name, there are a lot of places they can go and get more information about you. So, well, to strangers, no. Like if somebody's just asking your name, don't just offer it up. Say hi. Say, what's your name? Ask them. Say, I'm sorry, but what's your name? And if they're not willing to answer that, then say, oh, not really. It's nice to meet you, whoever you are. So, would you tell a stranger your name? Now, the response you should give is no. Nobody should be asking your name for a random reason. Say, hey, what's your name? It's a little creepy, and it's suspect. It's suspicious. And, like, why are you asking this? So that's why you just say, no. And then if they keep pushing, say, why do you need to know my name? And then if they keep pushing, then we revert back to our other safety trainings, and you say, well, now I'm going to call somebody. I'm going to make a scene. Well, first you leave the situation quickly, but then I'm going to make a scene if they keep bothering you. Should you tell a stranger where you live? So no, because they might come to your house and might try to hurt you or steal something from you. They may pretend to be your friend. So no, don't tell people where you live. Please don't do that. Look at just even staff here. We know where you all live, but you don't know where we live. But that again, we're not even strangers. But it's best even in that situation to not say where we live. It's just best and safest. And also, when it comes to a stranger, you have no idea who that person is. You have no interaction. There's no reason to trust that person. Should you tell a stranger where you're going? No. They may follow you and want to come with you and bother you. That's true. And then they might stick around for too long. I ran into that situation before, just trying to be nice, talking to a person. And then they wouldn't really leave me alone for a while, and I was like, yeah, I don't know how to get out of this. I was much younger then, but it happens. And luckily, everything turned out relatively okay. What if it's someone you see at the bus stop every day? Now, just because you've seen somebody over and over does not mean that you know them. It doesn't mean that they're your friend. It really doesn't mean much of anything. So, it's best not to. It's always best not to, especially because they kind of know the routes that you take. What if you see the same person over and over, and he or she smiles at you? Is that person your friend? No. Again, you don't know the person. They're not your friend. They might look nice, but it doesn't mean that person's nice. I think we've all made friends with somebody that we thought were nice and ended up not being the best of friends. And they turn out to be kind of a mean person. So this is somebody that's a total stranger, and you have no idea what their intentions are. What could you do if a stranger asks you for personal information? Ignore them. Put your headphones on. Walk away or roll away. Maybe don't put your headphones on. You might want to hear what they're actually doing. But you can ignore them. Walk away or roll away. You could say, I don't answer personal questions. Or you can just say, why do you need to know my name? And then say, no, thank you. I don't really give out my personal information. If a stranger keeps bothering you, did you know that you don't have to be nice to that person? So we went over this before, but if somebody keeps bugging you, say, leave me alone. Get away from me. You're frightening me, and you're being very bothersome right now. So could you please leave me alone? And not even please, leave me alone. And be very adamant about it. And keep walking away, and then if they keep bothering you, then you can start asking for help, make a scene. Say, this person over here is bugging me. Look for an officer. Start to call the police as well. A lot of times when you start to get on your phone, people will kind of start to back off. But make a scene first, and make sure you let them know, like, leave me alone. And it's important to be vocal about this. So if they gave her, we've already gone over this. Okay, some of us wear name tags. Should we leave our name tags on when we're waiting for the bus or riding on the bus? No, because then people know your name. They also, on name tags, a lot of times it might say where you work, and then they have more information. So no, just when you're off of work, put your name tag away, at least your name tag, because you might have a shirt on that says where you work, but it doesn't have your name on it. This is a good one. What about money? Should we talk to strangers about money? Never. This just says no. I say never. Strangers do not need to know about your money. Tell strangers about our money. They might want us to take it from us or borrow it. It's your personal information. Also, it's a stranger. Why are you asking about money? That's a weird thing to lead off with. Stranger, total person I don't know. So, no. No. That's my money. And I don't want to talk to you anymore. That would be a sign-off phrase for me, like, goodbye. What can we tell a stranger who asks about our money? Again, I don't answer personal questions. It's none of your business. Honestly, it isn't. And you're making me uncomfortable, so I'm gonna go now. Is it okay to give personal information to police officers? It is okay to give police officers our personal information, but we want to make sure they are real police officers first. Remember what you look for to tell someone if they are a real police officer: a badge, patches, and police ID. They usually have a bunch of other stuff on too, and most people it's a crime to go around impersonating a police officer. So even if somebody was wearing something convincing, they could get busted for it. But you kind of know, and typically people have a partner. They might have a car. You could say, hey, I just want to make sure. Where's your police vehicle? If they have that, that's a very good chance that you can share that information with them. So again, it is very important to carry ID, but then it's also very important to keep that information private, to keep most of this information private. And some of us, are very open to talking to people and trying to be friendly. But you need to be very wary of strangers, people you don't know. You don't know what somebody's motives are, and it's best not to always find out. best thing to do is to stay safe. I mean, you could come home and say, oh, I try to be nice to this person, and this is what they did, and I never want that to happen to any of you. They took some money from me, they stole my backpack. I've heard stories before from different people here that things like that have happened, and it's best to avoid those situations. So, again, safety training. So be safe out there. Have an ID on you for safety purposes, but also try to keep that information as to you as possible. Hold on to it. That is your personal information. All right. We'll see you next time.